remember specifically when I got jumped in, I was 14, 15 years old. Man, it felt like the longest 3 minutes of my life. I'm fighting for my life. But when you fall down, they don't stomp you out. They let you get back up and keep fighting. And that's part of initiation.
In the streets where gangs rule, initiation rituals are no joke. Imagine a world where joining a gang means proving yourself in the craziest ways imaginable. The Crips and the Bloods, and likewise other most notorious gangs, have initiation rituals that'll make your hair stand on end.
Writing your name on walls, spray painting, robbing people, right down to actual you rise.
But it's not just about proving yourself to the gang. It's about surviving the initiation, coming out on the other side with your reputation intact. It's a world where trust is earned through blood, sweat, and tears. In this video, we're diving deep into the dark world of gang initiation rituals. From chilling stories to shocking truths, get ready to uncover the most insane rites of passage in the world of gangs. Jumping in the Crips. The Crips are a big, tough gang in the USA. They started in Los Angeles, California, back in the late 1960s. At first, they wanted to keep African-American neighborhoods safe from other gangs and fights based on race. You can spot a Crip by their blue clothes. They don't get along with another gang called the Bloods, who wear red. In 2008, the Department of Justice estimated there were between 30,000 and 35,000 people with ties to the Crips. And they're not just based out of their home state of California anymore. The DOJ added that some groups were found in 41 states. Newcomers to the Crips face a tough test, the jumping in ritual. It's no walk in the park. They endure a harsh beating from current members. Why? It's a loyalty check, plain and simple. The severity of the beating varies, but the message is clear. Prove your loyalty or walk away.
Make the circle. Let's go get a crack. Make the circle. Make the circle. Make a circle. Get him up. Let him get up. Let him get up. Let him get up.
Surprising women are not left out in the brutal initiation.
Men, they were going to beat me up for 1 minute. This is small sacrifice, a minute for a family.
Another terrifying task usually given to new recruits is stealing of cars and possibly unaliving the owner. It's not a game. It's life or death. This initiation rite shows how serious the gang is about its members. It's not just about joining, it's about proving yourself. The older members of the gang decide what you must do to prove yourself. If you refuse, you risk your own life. The Crips aren't just a group. They're a dangerous family with deadly rules. For those on the outside, it's a glimpse into a world where toughness is currency and loyalty means everything. Buck 50. The Bloods. In 1972, on the streets of Los Angeles, a gang war between the dominant Crips and several local rivals was playing out. These smaller gangs decided to team up against the Crips, forming a new super gang called the Bloods. They were tough and brave, which helped them match up against the Crips, even though they were outnumbered. The Bloods became one of the biggest and scariest gangs in the United States. They were like the main enemy of the Crips. But here's something you might not know. The Bloods aren't all the same. They're actually made up of lots of smaller groups called sets. Each set is different from the others. They have their own rules and ways of doing things. The Bloods have been around for a very long time, and they have strict rules for their members to follow. On the West Coast, where they started, the rules are a bit more relaxed. But on the East Coast, there's something called the United Blood Nation, UBN, and they have 31 rules that all members must know by heart. The Bloods are known for their brutality. But just how brutal are they? Let me tell you about their initiation ritual. Imagine walking home, minding your own business, only to end up with your face sliced open by a buck cutter knife. They call it a buck 50 because it leaves you needing 50 stitches. Horrifying, right? Well, what's even scarier is who ends up in this gang. Mostly African-American high school boys. They join thinking it's all fun and games, but they're in for a rude awakening. Putting in work means doing violent or illegal things for a gang. Before joining, new members might have to show they're ready to do these actions. It's serious and dangerous. Gangs use this to show loyalty and strength. It's not just a gang. It's a nightmare for those involved. Clinical beatdown, MS-13 gang MS-13, also called Mara Salvatrucha, is a really dangerous gang. It started in Los Angeles in the 1980s with people from El Salvador who ran away from their country. At first, they were just a small gang doing small crimes and fights on the streets. But now, they're a big gang with connections all over the place, not just in the USA, but also in Central America and other countries. They do all kinds of criminal stuff like illegal movement of drugs, illegal movement of people, extortion, and racketeering. What makes them scary is how violent they are. They are known for using big knives called machetes to commit violent acts like unaliving people in really brutal ways. You can tell who they are because they have special tattoos and signs. It's not just any ordinary gang. This group is serious business. They don't just let anyone join. No, sir. If you want to be a part of MS-13, you've got to prove yourself, and that means committing some heinous acts. MS-13 isn't just about hanging out and causing a little trouble. Oh no, they're into some really serious soul. Men and women, alike, want to be part of this gang, but it's not easy. You can't just sign up and get a membership card. Nope, you've got to do something much worse. For guys, it's a get-jumped-in ritual. 5 big MS-13 guys give a severe beating. Survive that, and the next test, attack or even unalive someone innocent. And it's not just any unaliving, it's brutal. MS-13 doesn't mess around.
Gang initiation is eyed in the shooting of an innocent teen shot on a street in Queens last night.
For girls, it's different. 5 hefty gang members in her area take turns using force on her. If she makes it through, she's in. This isn't just a game. It's serious. It's about proving loyalty, toughness, and willingness to do anything for the gang. It's not something to take lightly. Some say the guy's beating lasts only 13 seconds, but no one knows for sure. What's certain is that the dangers are real. 18 seconds. Beatdown. The 18th Street Gang. Meet the 18th Street Gang. The notorious crew you don't want to cross. Originating in the streets of Los Angeles back in the 1960s, this gang has grown into something big and scary. They didn't start out as some fancy organization, just a bunch of guys from the neighborhood. But now they're into all sorts of bad stuff. We're talking drugs, stealing cars, and even worse, they're not afraid to hurt people. These guys aren't just chilling in LA, though. Nope, they've spread their wings, making trouble all over the place, even in other countries like those down in Central America. Now, here's the thing. They're not the only ones out there causing trouble. They've got beef with the MS-13 we just spoke about. And let me tell you, when these two groups clash, it's like something out of a movie, but way scarier. But here's where it gets real rough. Getting into this gang ain't easy. First off, you gotta go through some serious pain. I'm talking about an 18-second beatdown from the toughest dudes around, and they're not just using their fists, they're bringing out the big guns, like bats and hammers. Now, you might be thinking, 18 seconds? That's nothing. But let me tell you, it's enough to leave a mark for life. And if you survive that, well then you're in for life, whether you like it or not. The longest 3 minutes, almighty Latin King Nation. The Latin Kings, also known as ALKN, are a big gang in America, especially among Hispanic people. They started back in the 1940s in Chicago, but now you can find them in lots of other places too. These guys have a strict way of doing things. They have rules everyone has to follow, and they're big on loyalty to the gang. To show they're part of the Latin Kings, they use hand signals, tattoos, and special symbols. You might see them wearing black and gold, which are their colors. Their symbol is a star with a crown in the middle. But it's not all about just hanging out. The Latin Kings are into some violent criminal activities. They do drug dealing, stealing, and hurting people. Getting into the gang isn't easy either. For example, according to DNA Info Chicago, in 2013, Esteban Sotelo was ordered to shoot a rival gang member as part of his initiation process. And once you're in, it's not like you're instantly a big shot. Nope, there's a whole initiation process. According to a former soldier for the almighty Latin King Nation, or Latin Kings Andy Pellerano, he had to get beaten up by other gang members for 3 minutes. They weren't allowed to hit him in certain places, but still, it was rough.
You have 5 men that jump you, beat you up in a circle, 2 to 3 minutes. How you handle that process allows you to know if you made the initiation to become a Latin King.
After that, Andy got a notebook with all the gang's rules and stuff to read. He had to memorize a prayer, too, or else he'd get in trouble. So yeah, the Latin Kings might seem cool on the outside, but they're pretty serious about their gang stuff. It's not something you'd want to mess with. K or B K-ed, numbers, gang. Imagine a gang so scary, even prison guards tremble at the mention of their name. That's the Numbers Gang. They're like the kings of South African prisons, ruling with an iron fist since the middle of the last century. This gang isn't like your regular street thugs. They've got levels like in a video game. There's the 26, 27s, and 28s. Each faction has its own hierarchy, rules, and initiation rituals. This isn't a walk in the park. Here's a peek into what it takes to join their ranks. First off, expect a rough welcome. It's reported that prospective members endure brutal beatings from the gang's current members. Sounds harsh, right? But it's a test of guts and loyalty. If you can handle the pain and still want in, you might just make the cut. But the physical trials don't end there. Once you've survived the beatings, you're given tasks, missions to prove your loyalty. These missions aren't your run-of-the-mill chores. They're serious stuff. Think violence against rival gangs or sneaking forbidden stuff into prisons. It's risky business, but it shows you're willing to go the extra mile for the gang. This gang demands loyalty, and to join, you must prove yourself by either unaliving or being unalived. It's a horrifying choice many face behind bars. These initiation rituals are like something out of a nightmare, where survival means doing the unthinkable. The Numbers Gang rules with fear, and those who join are trapped in a cycle of violence.
Told the 27, you what the 27 is, there's a knife for you. You must the warder, or the major, or the captain. You can watch. And then I go to the cell there.
Yeah, and you watch.
And then watch.
If the 27s didn't follow your orders,
I kill them.
The Numbers Gang are into all kinds of stuff, like selling drugs and making people pay up or else. And once you're in for life. They even tattoo numbers on themselves to show they're part of the club. These guys aren't just scary inside prison walls. They're a big deal on the streets, too. They'll do anything for money, even if it means taking someone out. So, if you ever find yourself behind bars in South Africa, you definitely don't want to mess with the Numbers Gang. They're not just any old group. They're the real deal when it comes to prison gangs. Hells Angels membership, the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, HAMC, is one of the most famous outlaw motorcycle gangs globally. Started in Fontana, California in 1948 by a bunch of soldiers from World War II, it began from a feeling of rebellion and friendship after the war. As years passed, the Hells Angels grew into a big deal, with groups all over the world, known for their special logo, the winged death's head, and their rule of keeping secrets. The gang's name is linked with stories of crime, fighting, and going against what society says is right. They have a strict order and special ceremonies for new members. The Hells Angels work like a close family, putting their loyalty to the club above everything else. They're involved in lots of illegal stuff, like selling drugs, making threats for money, and being part of organized crime, making them famous and getting the police after them everywhere.
My name is Jay Dobbins. I'm a retired undercover federal agent, and I infiltrated the Hells Angels. Then you get your top rocker, the designator Hells Angels.
When newbies want to join a group like the Hells Angels, they start as a prospect. It earns them a patch called the bottom rocker.
To become a prospect, you get your bottom rocker, the bottom curved patch.
In Arizona, it's a special one. As they move up, they get more patches. A top rocker with the gang's name, and a center patch with their symbol, the Death Head.
When you become a member, then you get your top rocker, the designator Hells Angels, or whatever the gang is, and your center patch, which the Hells Angels is the Death Head.
To become a full member, everyone in the group has to agree. If even one person says no, you keep working as a prospect. There's no set time for this. It takes however long it takes. Cutting off a finger. Yakuza. Have you ever heard of the Yakuza? They're like the gangsters you see in movies, but real. These guys are part of some serious business. Organized crime. Think of them as the Japanese version of the mafia. The Yakuza have rules, and they stick to them. They run their operations like mini-kingdoms and strike fear into the hearts of many because of their strong influence and brutal tactics. They have deep connections in the media and other important parts of Japanese society. One of their notorious methods is called sokaya, a form of bribery on a large scale. Here's how it works. First, they buy a few shares in a company to get into shareholder meetings. Then, they gather information on the company leaders and use threats to extort large sums of money from them. At one point, there were over 180,000 members. But it's not just about money and power. The Yakuza have intense initiation rituals that emphasize loyalty and bonding. In one ceremony called Sakazuki, both the newcomer and the boss drink sake from cups based on their ranks, then swap cups to symbolize their bond, like a father and son. This ritual shows how important loyalty is to the Yakuza. Another ritual, Yubizumi, shows the extreme loyalty expected from members. If a boss is unhappy with a subordinate's work, they might demand the subordinate to cut off part of their pinky finger. Traditionally, this finger was crucial for holding a sword, so losing it made the person less able to fight independently. Though today, it's more symbolic, in the past, it served as a reminder of the subordinate's dependence on their boss. These rituals might seem strange or even barbaric to outsiders, but for the Yakuza, they're essential for maintaining order and loyalty within the gang. They demonstrate the lengths to which members are willing to go to prove their commitment and allegiance. The Yakuza's power and influence, coupled with their strict codes and rituals, make them one of the most feared criminal organizations in the world. Los Zetas. In Mexico, there's a scary group called Los Zetas. They're not your average criminals. They're super dangerous. The US government says they're the scariest cartel out there. They're really good at using technology to do lots of criminal activities. They're big, too. They control lots of places, almost as much as the famous Sinaloa cartel. Now here's where it gets really creepy. Back in 2014, a guy who used to work for Los Zetas told his priest something horrifying. He said he used to chop up people while they were still alive. Can you imagine that? He even said he liked doing it. It took a priest 4 sessions to help him get rid of these evil thoughts. The priest thinks these guys might be possessed by demons. Why? Because they're into something called Santa Muerte, which is like an evil god. It's like they're bringing back dark spirits. Imagine living in a place where these guys roam around doing such absurd things. It's like something out of a scary movie. People are scared of them because they're not just regular criminals. They're like monsters. New recruits are subjected to horrific torture or asked to commit terrible crimes to prove themselves. From brutal beatings to cannibalism, You won't believe what people go through to join these criminal enterprises. Word on the street is that Los Zetas' initiation rituals speak to their ruthless efficiency and cold-blooded nature. Tales of forced cannibalism and dismemberment highlight the extreme lengths to which the gang goes to ensure loyalty and obedience. Beat another to death. Wah Ching. The story of the Wah Ching is like something out of a movie, but it's real life, happening right in California. This secret society, starting way back in the 1960s, was like a big boss of Asian American crime in cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles. Imagine this. There are these tough guys called the Wah Ching, and they're always getting into fights with other Asian American gangs. It's like they have a rule to always beef with someone. The founder, Danny Wong, got taken out by a rival gang called Wo Hop 2. It was like a big showdown. When things got too hot in San Francisco, the Wah Ching packed up and moved to Los Angeles. But guess what? They didn't leave their problems behind. They started feuding with another gang called the Asian Boys. It was like a never-ending cycle of fighting. And it wasn't just the Asian Boys they had trouble with. There were other gangs too, like the Vietnamese Boys and the Sun Yeon. It was like they were always surrounded by enemies. One time in 1977, there was this crazy attack at a restaurant called the Golden Dragon in San Francisco. It was like something you'd see in a movie. The Wah Ching got targeted by another gang called the Joe Boys. It was like a war zone. But joining the Wah Ching wasn't easy either. It was like a brutal initiation. New members had to fight each other, sometimes until someone got seriously hurt. And then they'd carve the gang's name into their skin. It was like something out of a nightmare. So yeah, the Wah Ching might sound like something from a story, but they're real. And they've left a mark on California's history that won't be forgotten anytime soon. And that's all for today. Until next time. Bye.